My name is Abby Davis with the Easton Center for Career Readiness, and today I have my friend Reba McDermott with us today. Reba, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Reba McDermott, and I am the Chief Financial Officer for DeWaffle Bakers, which is based in Little Rock, Arkansas.
All right. So we're talking about courage today, and that's kind of our theme of this whole semester. And you and I have talked a little bit about this, but I know everyone would like to hear from you. How would you define courage in your own words? What does that mean to you, Reba?
I think courage for me, it's three areas. It's courage in perseverance, courage in standing up when you know enough is enough, and then sometimes courage just means walking away, being able to walk away. So for me, that's the how I would define it.
Okay. And I know, and through our conversations, we've got lots of stories that we'll dive into about your work experience and being a female executive and what that's looked like. But what was kind of your first experience looking back, maybe as a child or as a teen, experiencing courage or really seeing that courage in yourself?
I think the one area that stands out the most for me is when I graduated from high school.
Okay.
So I grew up in rural Arkansas, and I was first generation college, or wanting to go to college. No one in my family had ever gone. And I went to college. I enrolled at a local college, and honestly, I dropped out my first semester. It was really hard. I was working full time because I had to do that to be able to go to college. I told a family member that I had dropped out, and their comment to me was, not real surprised. We didn't really expect that you would go, and that you would continue. And, you're just going to kind of be like the rest of the family. So for me, that courage and perseverance was kind of going against the family norm, and being that first generation college student. And it was hard, but I definitely persevered and had the courage to go through, and I graduated. I will say that I reminded that family member of what they said. But I also think that would be the first memory for me. But I can also tell you that the cousins behind me all went to college.
Wow. And so you really kind of set the tone and paved the way for other members of your family. And you didn't stop there. You went on to receive your master's degree, right?
I did. So I have, that was when I graduated from University of Arkansas. And then I got a second bachelor's degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. And then I got my master's from University of Texas at San Antonio. Okay. And now I'm with you in the PhD program, in the executive PhD program. So, maybe it was that family member's comment, or I think for me, growing up, how I grew up, I love my family. I definitely do, but I knew what I didn't want. Mm-hmm. And so, which then means what I knew what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And that was to kind of prove people wrong, but to also show myself I could do it.
Isn't it amazing? You can develop that courage from support and encouragement from others, but you can also develop that courage when someone's not giving you that support, right. Or maybe they're doubting you, or they don't think you're going to be able to persevere. Yeah. And you clearly have persevered. You're now working on your PhD, set to graduate next year in 2022. So tell us a little bit about your role as a CFO. And, I know you were an accounting professional most of your career, but then as a CFO, where are times where you've had to demonstrate courage in your professional career?
I am the currently CFO for I'd call it a mid-sized company. Okay. And I've been a controller for a much larger company, Fortune 500 company, a division of their company. And for me, what I've had to do at the executive level, 99.9% of the time, I'm the only female at the table. And I'm having the courage to stand up for myself and to know my value and what I bring to that table. So it is definitely, there's many instances where sometimes I did stand up. I said enough is enough. What I've had to remember over my career is that just because I'm standing up and saying this is what has to happen, it doesn't always happen, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that I had the courage and the confidence to do that helped me, and hopefully helped the other folks behind me, the other females behind me.
Yeah.
But where I've found it is definitely, I've kind of come, you and I have had conversations about knowing your value. And I would say I've come more into that probably in the last 10 years of my career.
Okay.
Didn't have so much of that when I was younger in my career.
So what changed? And can you elaborate on what knowing your value is? We've talked about that, but just for our viewers, elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that.
So I don't know really what the trigger was. I think it could have been, as in my career when I graduated, my first degree was with a marketing degree, wasn't in accounting.
Okay.
And then when I went back to VCU and got my accounting is when I got into the accounting world. And there, sometimes I would see things that was just like, this is just wrong. But I had to learn that the way I stood up may have not gotten me as much buy-in or support, let's say, as one would hope. So I had to learn how to hone that skill. But also that as I've worked through my career, and it is definitely been a challenge sometime, but being the only female, and I wasn't always the only female, and a lot of times I was scared to stand up. And I was very scared to stand up. But I think I just kind of reached a limit that just said, no, it's time. It's
Mm-hmm.
time to do this. Because when I was growing up, I can tell you one story, that I had graduated college and I was home for the weekend. I was working for a large company. And I was home for the weekend. I was telling a story to my mother about something my boss had said, and I didn't agree, and I had pushed back, and she was just shocked that I pushed back. Now, I did it professionally, probably not as professionally as I would now, being older, but I didn't grow up with the being taught, no, you stand up, so where that came from, I think I had to do it to survive
Mm-hmm.
and move up. Because I've always been ambitious, and I always wanted to go that extra step.
Absolutely. And so, did you ever have any type of mentor, throughout your professional career that helped you develop not just the courage but the confidence to be a successful female CEO?
I think throughout my career I've had mentors, and to be honest, most of them have been men.
Mm.
And one of the programs one of the companies I was with, they had a program for, they called it Women's Leadership in Finance. And they would pair the up-and-coming finance people, women, with a more senior level person. And mine was an executive at the company. And he was great. I hope that now I can, I do mentor younger, usually females.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily have that strong female model coming up in the business world, so I did kind of have to figure out how to exist in the male world.
Sure. Well, you were in manufacturing industry primarily,
Mm-hmm.
Typically a very male-dominated industry,
Yes.
but it's so positive and inspiring to hear that you had those mentors, you had those male champions of your career. So you are a mentor to me. A lot of our conversations, have had a huge impact on me, and I haven't quite always developed that courage in some of those situations, and having those conversations with you has been very inspiring for me, and has helped build my own confidence as a female leader, so thank you for that. So my next question is for any of our students that are trying to develop that courage, and I want to go back to that word confidence, because I feel like maybe confidence sometimes has to come before courage. What advice would you give to our students that are trying to build that confidence and that courage to really start off in a successful career?
I think the first thing for me is you have to believe in yourself, because you can control that. And for me, When I was young and in college and in high school, I was very introverted. My first big class with 500 people at the University of Arkansas, where they go down the roll and say, if you go by a different name, let us know. Well, you know me as Reba, but my whole family calls me Lily. Well, I wasn't going to stand up in front of 500 people and say, no, it's not Reba, it's Lily. But I had to, the confidence for me was key, and I had to come out of my shell. Sometimes I think we have to be careful of being overly confident. I'm all for a confident person, all for that. But make sure make sure that you understand. There's this, always have the saying, seek first to understand, because I've had a lot of times where I've had colleagues of all ages that just come in and they just say, this is the way it is. And it's like, no, that's not. That's not really how it is. So I think the confidence, and for me, use the word champion. I had a lot of champions, and I was kind of known for, I was a very hard worker. I did whatever it took to get the job done, and sometimes that meant working crazy, ridiculous hours. I do that today as a CFO. So it is, that's never really wavered, that work ethic. And, while my family may not have been big into college, I learned an incredible work ethic from my family. And that I think has gone a long way with me.
Absolutely. That work ethic, that drive, it's so important. You talked about putting in the long hours and really kind of proving yourself. So knowing your value, but also proving, that worth and that value that you can contribute.
And on the know your value, it is, particularly sometimes with us females, we don't do a good job of standing up for our value. And I've talked to you before, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of people like me, and you're like, no, there's not. And for me, I'm just like, really? So it is, while you may learn from me, I learn from you. And I think that as we get older, we have to remember you don't, people older than you aren't the only mentors. You've got the younger ones. But for me, knowing my value and what I bring to the table, whether it is in a PhD, seminar that we're doing, or if it is on the phone with, my board, knowing what I bring and being confident and what I'm stating and not backing down when I know for sure I am correct. So I think that's the knowing my value has really resonated more.
Yeah.
I think probably in the last 10 years.
Okay. Well, this has been so inspiring and helpful. Thank you so much, Reba, for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with us, and just really helping our students know that there's a process to this. There's a process to courage. There's a process to confidence, and a lot of it is getting outside of your comfort zone and trying new things and building that, but then also seeking out those champions and finding those people all around in your life. And I feel like we're champions for each other, and we'll continue to be. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks.